I started enjoying it more and more. But then I quit the lessons, but I continued playing piano every day. So I started composing my own melodies instead of learning other people's tracks. And I did that for a couple of years until I heard about Avicii, and I got into electronic music, and I started learning myself how to produce electronic music. So I just used a MacBook Pro and a MIDI keyboard and a software called Logic Studio, and I used YouTube and everything to learn how to produce music.
So no formal classes, just kind of all learning by yourself?
Yeah, except the piano lessons, that was everything, yeah. And then the electronic part and the technical part, that was just me, myself, in my bedroom back home, experimenting, yeah.
And what was the first, when did you write your first song?
I guess I had all these melodies in my head, from the piano, because I had a lot of melodies that I had been playing on the piano for many years, and that was what I wanted to do something more with. So I started out producing my own melodies and my own tracks, but they weren't that good. So what I did was I got into remixing tracks, and that kind of gave me my start in music, and it kind of gave me the start of my career, because I was remixing like Ed Sheeran tracks and Passenger and The Weeknd and all these more known tracks, and I put it out on SoundCloud, and then that gave me my start. But then I got into I signed a deal with Sony, and I got some demos, and I started going back to producing original tracks. So the first track that I put out, that was Firestone on Spotify, and that one kind of got the much bigger response that I was expecting.
Yeah, that's an amazing track. Sorry, somewhat sort of awkward question, but like, how did it feel when you knew you were big?
I guess it was a kind of weird feeling, and for me, like, I was dreaming about it. I was sitting in my bedroom dreaming about traveling around the world, playing festivals, but when I'm suddenly there, and like I was dreaming about, for example, playing Ultra Music Festival, and then now a couple months ago I was stood on the main stage, and I just looked out on the crowd, and it was like 50,000-60,000 people, and it's kind of a surreal feeling, and it's very hard to explain, but it's of course a very, very good feeling. It's a dream come true. But I would say that the weirdest thing is getting recognized in the street. That's something I'm still kind of getting used to a little bit.
What do people feel in Norway about you?
Well, in Norway, that's kind of my home country. So that's where my music is most known, and like the newspaper has been writing about my music and putting my face on the cover, so everybody kind of knows who I am and knows what I look like. But they definitely like my music, and it's been a big support, and as well as Sweden, it's going well across the world now as well. So it's very exciting times.
It's a crazy journey for sure.
Yeah.
How do you think about your new record? Like, what was the process? I mean, obviously following great success, getting I'm sure 1 million people calling you and wanting to do stuff with you. Like, what was the process as you wrote and recorded your album?
Well, it's definitely a different process putting together an album and putting together a song, because when you release a song, the only thing you gotta think about is that song has to be as good as possible. But when you put together an album, each track gotta be good, strong on their own, but they gotta make sense together. It's one record, and they gotta have some kind of connection, and so it's definitely like a very challenging process, but and it was a long process. I was working on this album for more than 1.5 years, so it was definitely a very challenging process, and I produced a lot of tracks that I kind of wanted on the album, but that didn't make it because they didn't fit in.
Right.
So it's a different process. It is from producing just a single track, but it was very fun, and I learned a lot from it. I did.
Well, so what are you doing with all those tracks that you're now using?
Hopefully I can use it. Yeah, I can like release it some other way. But right now they're just laying around on my computer, and yeah, I'm not doing anything with them. So that's kind of the downside.
How do you know what to put on the track? And just by way of context, I remember I was talking to Avicii about this thing, and he very often actually took random tracks and just tried them. And I remember he said to me like 2 or 3 years ago, he was trying an entirely new sound, went to Art Basel and just did a more kind of country sort of pop EDM sound. Is that something you do as well as you try songs on the audience, or like do you put it on SoundCloud, or what's the way?
Yeah, I guess the best way to test out a new track is to play it on the live show, because you can get like an impression of, okay, do they like this track, or is it something they hate? But in the end, you gotta just go with your own guts. Like, I think Avicii, when he first played on Old Straw and he played all those "Wake Me Up," people didn't like it. There was so much like rumor, like everybody talked about, oh, that was awful. But then he put it out, and 3 months later, it was the biggest track of the year. So yeah, I think the most important thing is to go with your own gut and put out the tracks that you like, and you can't care too much about what everybody else thinks, but of course it's important to get their opinion as well.
But that must have been sort of a big thing, because as much as you say that, you still had like one of the most successful tracks of all times on Spotify, and then followed up with an album. Like, do you pay attention to social media and what people are saying, or like, how do you feel about that?
I do, yeah. Of course, I whenever I put out a track, I'm very like I'm online 24/7, like looking at the response, because it's of course important, and that's what I live on. Like, it's the fans. But I think like when I started making this style of music that I make today, there was no one else really doing that style of music. And I just kind of did my own thing, and I trusted myself, and I thought it sounded good, and it felt good to me when I listened to it and when I made it. So I just put it out there, and then after a while, people started getting into it. So I think for me, it's very important to even though I can see people saying, "Oh, I don't like this kind of music," but if I like it, then that's the most important thing for me, and maybe they will start liking it maybe in a year from now. Yeah.
How does it work for you as you're thinking about a new song? So, you know, Pharrell, for instance, he talks a lot about it. It starts with a beat. It actually doesn't start with the melody at all. It kind of comes later. What is your sort of creative process as you write music?
I usually, since I started playing piano, I usually start on the piano. So I would say I usually start with a melody or some kind of chord progression. And then if I have something, I probably have thousands of recordings on my phone, just like simple melodies that I like. Then when I find something I like, I move over to the computer and I start producing this melody. So I think for me, usually the melody comes first. And I feel like for me, melody is so important. And when I listen to music, I listen to not just the lyrics and the beat. I listen a lot to the melodies. They can be simple, but they can be like super catchy, and that's Avicii is a great example of that. He has so many, like "Wake Me Up." That melody is very simple, but it's so catchy. So I'm like, sitting on the piano and just jamming around, and whenever I find something I think is kind of simple but very catchy, then I move over to the computer and I start producing around it.
That's amazing. You know, how do you think about in the EDM world? Obviously, there's a lot of collaborations, and you write a lot of your own stuff. Is there any ones that you have as sort of dream collaborations going forward?
I definitely have a lot of people that I would love to work with, and I think one of my main inspirations is Ed Sheeran. Because his story is just so inspirational, how he started from nothing and now he's the biggest artist in the world. I've also remixed a couple of his tracks. So I would love to work with him one day if that was possible. And then we have The Weeknd and Coldplay and Red Hot Chili Peppers. There's so many talented people and bands that I would love to work with. I think it's very cool to kind of combine two worlds, like let's say Red Hot Chili Peppers, they're a band, and then combine it with EDM. I think that would be a pretty cool combination.
Sounds like it. We'll have to call Anthony after this.
We should.
I'm sure he's up for at least jamming and doing some cool stuff.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah. You know, growing up, what kind of music influences do you feel like best captures you today? And is there anything when you listen to it, it's kind of like, yeah, that's been heavily influencing you as an artist today?
I would say, like, when I grew up, I kind of listened to everything, and my dad was very interested in music, and we had this like CD collector that plays. We had 600 CDs in there, and you can just choose what CDs do you want to listen to. And so
early Spotify.
Yeah. So he just played me so much music when I grew up, like Pink Floyd and Rolling Stones and like everything. And so I can't like really name like one band and one person that has inspired me, but I think it's just kind of a combination, and I think it gives you like a better understanding of how to put together music when you listen to so much music throughout the years. But I would say like when I was a teenager, I listened to all these bands like Foo Fighters and The Killers, and I think all of them has had kind of an inspiration and an impact on what I do today.
Is there any kind of show that is for you have been, besides the Ultra show, that it was like, oh shit, this is the one where you felt like fans were amazing?
It's been many. It's been so many. And like at Coachella, I played 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and that was just amazing to be a part of the Coachella lineup, because I never thought I was going to be even playing festivals, and then suddenly be at Coachella, which is one of the world's biggest festivals. That was just insane. But I think I forgot, like the first really wow moment I had was when I played my first big festival in Norway, in Oslo, and that summer, it was the summer of 2014, and I had a remix, actually 2013 I think. I had a remix that was doing very well in Norway, but I was in the US the whole summer, so I didn't really realize how well that remix was doing in Norway. So when I got back in the end of the summer and I played that track, and it was 10,000 people, 12,000 people, and it was kind of the first big show I did, and then everybody was singing along. It was just a moment I will never forget. I had goosebumps and I had a tear in my eye, and it was just probably one of the first really wow moments that I had on stage.
What do you like the most, writing music or playing music?
I started out being a producer, and I started out in the studio. So I think if I had to choose between one, I would choose to make music. But to be able to do both is a lot of fun, because it's cool, like when you've had a track that you've been working on for so many hours in the studio, and then be able to go out of your studio and play it in front of thousands of people and seeing them singing along, and it's just a very good feeling.
So you mentioned obviously that you started off with piano. So we do have a little bit of a treat for everyone here tonight, which is that Kygo will play us some songs on piano.
Yeah, I will.
So thank you again so much for being here.